Hey everybody, welcome to Popcorn Planet. I'm Andy Signor. I'm here to update you on the Johnny Depp Amber Heard case. We're midway through the case, and I'm sorry I haven't given you more updates. I'm going to try to do it here, so subscribe for more updates. If you aren't up to date yet, and you don't know what's even happening between Amber Heard and Johnny Depp in this libel defamation lawsuit, go check out our previous video where we talk about the audio tapes. You get to hear them directly and hear just these private moments between Amber Heard and Johnny Depp that, to me, really exposed Amber Heard's emotional, physical abuse, gaslighting. It's ugly. It's ugly. She does not sound good on these. It's clear she was the aggressor. Johnny Depp is just trying to get away from the situation. She's constantly hammering him, and I feel for him. And if those tapes weren't released, what's so crazy about this story, what's so sad, is no one would believe him. She labeled him an abuser. She did an op-ed piece, which he's suing her for defamation, that she tried to throw out, mind you. She tried to get it thrown out of the case, but her dismissal was denied. So he's still up for a case against Amber Heard that's on deck. But in the meanwhile, he's suing The Sun. He's starting his case early by suing The Sun, a tabloid magazine that's basically saying, well, we know he's a wife beater. They put it in a title to the article of J.K. Rowling's Fantastic Beasts hires the wife beater Johnny Depp. They're standing by it. They're fighting this in court, saying that there were 14 allegations that we stand by, that there is proof. And so Johnny now is in court right now, currently in London, taking The Sun to court to say, well, prove it. Prove that I was an abuser. What are you talking about? That never happened. And so that's where we are. So he still has a case against Amber Heard, a defamation libel case that I imagine, I'm not a lawyer, but I imagine if he wins this and there proves to be no evidence, it's not going to help Amber Heard's second case at all, because they would be presenting a lot of the evidence now. And so he's basically, look, if you're an innocent person, you go to court, you take it. Now, granted, the court systems aren't always the best, but if you've got nothing to hide, you didn't do it, take them to court, because they have to prove it, right? They have to prove that you did it. And so if you can prove otherwise, and you can bring a lot of witnesses in, which Johnny now has done, you can win this case. And so if she loses this case and the Sun can't prove it, then she's going to have to prove it next with what evidence that they didn't present. They're going to have to either make something up. Who knows? But the past couple of days, the case has gotten really interesting because Johnny Depp's ex-wife, Vanessa Paradis, and his ex-girlfriend, I guess they were married as well, Winona Ryder, provided testimony, as well as his bodyguard, as well as Amber Heard's personal assistant of 3 years. All gave testimony these past couple of days that are just so damning, that only just add to this damage that Amber Heard is just, an awful liar. So let's break down where we stand on some of these statements and some of the things that happened in a couple of days. So first up, we have a statement that they were supposed to come in, but then they apparently didn't need to come in. They instead gave these statements. Vanessa Paradis, who was his wife, I work as a musician, singer, songwriter, fashion model. I confirm that save where otherwise appears the facts stated in this witness statement are within my knowledge. Those facts are true to the best of my knowledge. I confirm they are true to my best data. Yeah, I make this with this. I have known Johnny for more than 25 years. We've been partners for 14 years, and we raised our 2 children together. Through all these years, I've known Johnny to be a kind, attentive, generous, and non-violent person and father. On movie sets, the actors, directors, and entire crews adore him because he's humble and respectful to everyone, as well as being one of the best actors we've seen. I'm aware of the allegations which Amber Heard has publicly accused Johnny of for more than 4 years now. This is nothing like the true Johnny I have known, and from my personal experience of many years, I can say he was never violent or abusive to me. I have seen that these outrageous statements have been really distressing and also caused damage to his career, because unfortunately people have gone on believing these false facts. This is so upsetting, as he has helped so many persons in his personal and professional life with kindness and generosity. Signed, Vanessa Paradis. Now, he didn't just get one ex-wife. He got a second one. Winona Ryder came back. Remember, he had that Winona Forever tattoo, which he had to change to Wino Forever. Clearly didn't end well. But even Winona Ryder has come to his defense. Winona Ryder here, I make this witness statement to be proceedings. I know full details of the claimants against. I am aware of the violence allegations that have been made publicly for the last few years by Johnny Depp's ex-wife, Amber Heard. I knew Johnny very well years ago. We were together as a couple for 4 years, and I counted him as my best friend and as close to me as family. I count our relationship as one of the most significant relationships of my life. I understand that it is very important that I speak from my own experience, as obviously I was not there during his marriage to Amber. But from my experience, which was so wildly different, I was absolutely shocked, confused, and upset when I heard the accusations against him. The idea that he is an incredibly violent person is the farthest thing from the Johnny I knew and loved. I cannot wrap my head around these accusations. He was never violent towards me. He was never abusive at all towards me. He was never been violent or abusive towards anybody I've seen. I truly and honestly only know him as a really good man, an incredibly loving, extremely caring guy who was so very protective of me and the people that he loves. And I felt so very, very safe with him. I do not want to call anyone a liar, but from my experience of Johnny, it is impossible to believe that such horrific allegations are true. I find it extremely upsetting knowing him as I do. In fact, I believe the fact states in this witness statement are true. Signed, Winona Ryder. So there you go. You have two. Look, let's sit on this for a second. Not everyone ends their relationships on a good note. Ask yourself, of all the relationships you've been in, would they all give you glowing reviews? Right? But will they come to your back and defend you when it matters and say, look, that's not who this person is? Or they had every right to just say nothing. They didn't have to come to this. They're not there. They publicly are defending him, these ex-wives of his, girlfriend. I don't know if they were married. But that tells you something. That tells you something. He was a good person to be able to end those relationships on a high note, and a good note at least, to get their support here when he really needed it. I don't think that's an easy thing to do, to get your exes to come. Most times divorce and things can be really ugly, and they don't even want to see each other based off whatever emotions are happening. So usually when a case involves exes, relationships, kids, custody battles, like the Jeremy Renner one, I stay out because it's too personal. It's too hard to really get the facts because people are hurt. Feelings are hurt. There's a lot of emotion there. So to get these mature people to come back and say, look, we know this guy. This is ridiculous. We will put our name, perjure ourselves. This is impossible from the man we know. And Vanessa, 2 kids, 14 years. You'd think if this guy was violent when he drank, you're telling me he didn't drink with Winona or Vanessa Paradis? Come on. Just because he drinks or does some drugs, which he should stop, he's got to work on that. But just because he's done those things doesn't mean he turns into Jekyll and Hyde monster, as Amber Heard keeps trying to claim he did, without any proof, except for marking she gave herself in theory because they weren't there in certain place on certain times when they should have been, given her stories. So this whole thing is just crazy, and these 2 people coming forward says a lot. But they weren't the only ones. That's what's so crazy. On top of them coming forward, we also got, well, actually, let me save this one. We got, here, I'm going to save the best for last. We also have his bodyguard coming forward. Now you could argue, well, he's close to his bodyguard maybe, but Depp's bodyguard says Amber Heard abused Johnny Depp. In the written statement released, Sean Bett said that throughout the course of the relationship, Mrs. Heard was verbally and physically abusive towards Mr. Depp. On many occasions, I witnessed her shout at Mr. Depp. I was also told by Mr. Depp on multiple occasions that Mrs. Heard had physically abused him. He was a former LA sheriff's deputy who worked for Depp for a decade, said he regularly had to remove the Pirates of the Caribbean star from bad situations when Heard was in an abusive mood. She would often behave in this way where she had been drinking. I learned quickly to recognize the signs so that we were able to leave the situation before it escalated further. In a week's the testimony. So apparently the lawyer for the paper kept trying to say there was a dispute about the date of the photo of the actor's bruised face taken by the security guard. The lawyer suggested that Bett was lying to protect his employer. He responded, "Ma'am, you can call me a liar 100 times. I'm not a liar. I'm telling the truth." He's under oath. Depp's former romantic partners also came forward. We just read that. And so that just to show you. On top of that, Amber Heard called fat Johnny Depp washed up. And I got Amber Heard's assistant last, so stay tuned. Amber Heard called fat Johnny Depp washed up during his island attack quarters. So on top of that, we have Tara Roberts, the estate manager of Depp's Little Hall Ponds Cay in the Bahamas. who called the actor an unusually kind man who became withdrawn during his volatile relationship with the Aquaman actress. Heard was a thrower. This is according to this Tara Roberts, who was a manager at the property. Heard was a thrower, someone who threw projectiles and would lunge violently at Johnny, pull his hair, and commit other aggressive physical acts against him, Roberts said in a witness testimony. Roberts detailed how Heard repeatedly berated Depp with increasing ferocity during one alleged assault in 2015, where the couple was on the Caribbean island with Depp's 2 children and a friend. She was insulting him, calling him names. God, can you imagine? And his kids are there. She was insulting, calling him names, and in the middle of all this onslaught, I heard her say specifically, "Your career is over. No one is going to hire you. You're washed up, fat. You will die a lonely man," and also screaming things that were incomprehensible. Depp tried to leave, telling her to just leave me alone, but his wife's screaming and berating rose to a fever pitch. During this entire incident, I never saw Johnny hit Amber or push her back, nor did he physically react to the attacks. Heard would calm down and hug and apologize just for the onslaught to start again. She later saw Depp with a red swelling gash on the bridge of his nose, she said. Johnny then told me, had thrown a quart-sized can of lacquer thinner into Johnny's face, causing a gash, the witness statement said. The next morning, the bushes around their houses were littered with art supplies, and Heard asked for help finding her wedding ring, which she had taken off and thrown during the fight. I never saw her with any sign of injury on her face or body whatsoever, the manager said. Roberts insisted she never saw Depp being violent or aggressive with anyone. Roberts, who also said that when Depp came to the island on August 14th to detox from pain meds, there was no discord or anything out of the ordinary, despite Heard claiming that the actor flipped out and kicked her. Prior to the couple's marriage, Depp was outgoing, friendly, and social, but there was a distinct change after his marriage. The once social and animated person spent most days sleeping, became withdrawn. On the witness stand, Roberts insisted she was not lying in her statement to save her job, saying she had other sources of income. As far as you were concerned, you have suggested that Miss Heard, who was the most violent, is that right? Lawyer for the Sun, correct. So there you go. So look, this is sure. Could they all be lying? I guess. But the bodyguard, the rep, the wax, why are they all lying? These are all character studies, or character witnesses, and proof for years of marriage that there's nothing happened. And she doesn't have any proof that it happened either. No one's coming to her side to say something happened. But then it gets even crazier because her assistant has come forward. Kate James worked as a personal profile assistant in the entertainment industry, and she makes some crazy claims. So this is long, but she talks about how she started there. She worked there for 3 years. She talks about Amber Heard would drink vast quantities of red wine each night. She would ask me to buy Johnny non-alcoholic beer, as that's all that she would allow him to drink. Amber's relationship. In 3 years I worked, I would go to their house almost every day, and she talks about she would not announce how she would walk in, so it was always regularly without notice. I never saw any sign of altercation or even the aftermath of a serious or messy fight in the way that Amber describes in her statements. I never saw any physical I never saw any physical violence by either Amber or Johnny, so there she could have. If she was lying, why not say, yeah, I saw. She's saying neither. I saw Amber much more frequently than Johnny, almost every day for 3 years apart from where she was out of town. I understand that the period of my employment overlaps with the majority of the incidents in which Amber has alleged that Johnny was violent towards her. I never once saw any bruising, swelling, or any evidence of what could have resulted from violence. I would often see her naked or semi-naked when she was getting dressed or at fittings. I was around her a lot, 7 days a week. So this is Amber's assistant, mind you. Now, you could say she's lying, but what kind of person hires an assistant who then would turn and lie on you? And then you're going to say you're just lying to protect Johnny. She was Amber's assistant. So clearly Amber didn't treat her very well. So clearly she had no qualms coming in and telling the truth. Johnny was calm, quiet, shy in all my experiences of him. He was always thoughtful and kind and genuinely decent person. I remember on one occasion, I had to bring my son back to work after picking him up from school. Johnny would be there and would hang out with him, teaching him how to play guitar. He would be patient, kind with him. I would have never left my son with Johnny while I was working if I had any concerns about him whatsoever. Johnny would come back from traveling with gifts like little skull necklaces for his children, and he would always bring an extra one back for my son. I thought that was very thoughtful, kind, particularly considering that Amber was my employer, not him. Again, everything I've heard, that's how Johnny is. So then also she goes into detail explaining how she basically asked her to sign a letter to the Homeland Security Department and told her to lie. She knew it was fraudulent to sort of protect some person she was hiring, and then said she was her friend, and that everything was she lies to like the Homeland Security. I knew this to be untrue, and that Amber was willfully lying to the U.S. Immigration Department. I took a photograph, a letter, one of the paychecks in there, and then she talks about the Australia incident where Amber was caught bringing in dogs, which again she says that she knew that Amber was doing this on purpose. That as she claimed all this, she says that Amber was above the law. And so all the stuff that she blamed Johnny for, this dog stuff, wasn't the case. I remember the huge uproar. I was told that Johnny had to send the dogs back to Los Angeles on a private jet, which would have cost a fortune from Australia. Ultimately, I woke up one morning many months later to find an email with my mother. Where was it? From an attachment newspaper article. I was devastated when I found out that Amber had blamed me in court. I broke down in tears at the thought that she blatantly lied in court in my hometown and blamed me. Obviously, I knew that was a complete lie, and yet she has no problem apparently perjuring herself in order to avoid responsibility. I've been told a discussion that took place where Amber contemplated asking Kevin, another assistant, to ask me to sign a false statement to support her position that she did not know the dogs were not ready to be taken in Australia. Amber knew they weren't ready, yet chose to take them anyway. The fact that she was willing to ask me to sign such a statement under oath, especially as an Australian who cares and understands about the laws of my own country, is a reflection of her approach to me and anyone, in fact, in general. She did not care about throwing anyone under the bus if it meant saving her own skin, even if it meant lying in court and to authorities. I believe it would have been obvious to Amber that I would not lie for her, and so she decided not to approach me. And so anyway, it continues. There's so much. And then to make it even worse, we have our last thing here. This is disgusting. This is crazy. Do I have the headline? No, but so she used... So the second statement she made, where this is Kate James, who's the assistant. I'm not going to use a lot of these trigger words because YouTube will just completely trigger the video. But you can read here. She was abused violently by an unknown male at knife point. And she talks about this ordeal. For 5-6 hours, she narrowly escaped with her life. A torturous experience that is extreme violence that has haunted her since, and permanently changed the trajectory of my life to this day. Over the years, I have shared this incident with many close friends, families, and therapists. On 2013, Miss Heard became aware of what had happened to me, and as I talked about it with a friend of hers at her apartment, Miss Heard then summoned me to her office where we sat on her couch and she questioned me about it. She was curious as to how I coped with it on a daily basis, and she suggested I buy a gun. I was shocked at the suggestion. I would not consider having a gun in my home with a small child around. I responded that I chose to see myself as a survivor, not a victim, and that is how I found my own way to cope. On June 25th, 2020, I received documents pertaining to my involvement on behalf of the claimant in this case. As I pursued the documents, much to my utter shock and dismay, I discovered that Miss Heard had in fact stolen my violent conversation with her and twisted it into her own story to benefit herself. This has, of course, caused me extreme duress and outrage that she would dare to attempt to use the most harrowing experience of my life as her own narrative. I believe the facts stand as true and proceedings. Anyway, I mean, gross. Using her assistant's violent abuse story for her own benefit. It's just, this is nasty. This is getting nasty. This is getting intense. There's a lot more to be had in this case. But, I mean, come on. How much does he need to lay out? We'll see what happens with the verdict of this case and his next case against Amber Heard. I will be following and reporting on this as more comes to light. So stay tuned. Make sure to subscribe and stay tuned for more information. But, I mean, I was already not a fan of this woman, but man, the more and more he presents in this case, it's clear why he's doing it. He wants his name cleared and he wants to destroy her. And honestly, I would too if I was in that situation. If I had the resources to do it the way I wanted to, I would have. I would love to, but it's a lot harder. Johnny Depp does have money. He has resources. He's able to sort of put this through, but it's a battle for him. This is a battle for him. There's a lot of people in Hollywood who think he shouldn't be doing this. This is a bad look, but he doesn't care. And honestly, that to me screams more that he's innocent, because you don't go to trial if you've got something to hide. If you did something there, you wouldn't want to risk it. You wouldn't do all this. You just wouldn't do it. It would be worse than suicide. So he's feeling confident because he has the truth on his side, is what I honestly believe. And the more and more people that come forward, and I'll say this, I know some people who know Johnny Depp, nicest person in the world, that he is just the kind, sure, drinks, whatever, but mellow. He's a mellow, like, user. And so totally nicest, sweetest guy in the world. I don't buy this for a second. Everything, if you listen to those tapes, which I'll put here at the end here too, if you listen to those tapes of Amber Heard, it is hard to believe anything she says after listening to her. She is a manipulator. She's a narcissist. She's a gaslighter. She is not a good person, and she's hiding something. It's clear. Was there an abusive relationship? Sure. Were they yelling at each other? Sure. Physical abuse, though? That's a serious charge. And the one shot where she got hit apparently doesn't match up. There's multiple witnesses that claim she didn't have it the morning after the incident, that she had it later. So what that would tell you too. I mean, so more is coming from this case. It'll still be going. I'll be watching this with bated breath to see how this verdict comes out. I'm sure you will be paying attention online too. We will have more here, so check out the audio tapes if you haven't already, or the other videos here. Be sure to subscribe. We'll be here live. It's Thursdays live tonight, so tune in to Nerd Wars. You can hit me up on social media as well. Thanks for watching, everybody. Tell me your thoughts on this case down in the comments below. Be back to you soon. Bye, everybody.